Hello Buccaneers, we are at the San Jose Museum of Art. Last time we were here, the museum was partly closed because they were installing new exhibits, so there was a lot of curtains and we couldn't see what was behind them. Today we're getting a behind the scenes tour of the museum so we can see how they install the art. First, we're entering the exhibitions department at the basement of the museum, and this is where they plan all the installations that end up going upstairs for the public to see. As you walk down the corridor, you can see sketches of museum layouts from the past. So they tell you all the art pieces here and where they're placed. And I'm pretty sure it's to scale because it says 1/4 of an inch equals 1 foot. All the sketches also have different labels because the exhibitions change. Like this one has geometric abstraction in this room, magic realism in this room, American art in this room, and so on. Behind us is their giant elevator where they transport art from the loading dock on the street. Then they can bring it down here. And I think it also goes to the exhibition room. And you can fit cars and huge art pieces in there. This is what the inside looks like. That's cool. This room is where they plan all the future exhibits. Mr. Rich is showing us some digital models on the screen.
So these are little still images that were taken from the model. You can freeze frame it and print it. So again, this gives you a sense of what is this going to look like when you're standing in this space once it's done. And this is designed long before it's ever built, so you really get to understand how it's going to feel. And you can make decisions about how big is the truss, where do the chairs go, and things like that.
Next, Mr. Rich is showing us his daily schedule. Now we're looking at a model of the upcoming exhibit. So this is going to be a future installation. Every inch represents 1 foot. All the blue lines are going to be light strips. So this model is to scale, which means that this wiring is also to scale. For every inch of wiring here, it's 1 foot of wiring in real life. And this helps them plan how they place their wires so that the exhibit can light up. Also, these vertical black things are going to be spaced out like that too. Yeah. So they can say, oh, this thing has to go 4 boards. Never mind. Wait, hold on. This guy is Pee Wee Herman, and I'm going to set him here. And since this model is to scale, I think he might be 5 inches. Well, if he's 4.5 inches, that means that in real life he'll be 4.5 feet. Just imagine being this little guy and you see this big screen in front of you. Well, that's what the exhibit's going to be like. Inside this particular exhibit, there's going to only be 2 light sources. One is from the projector, which will be playing that video, and the other is just the light strips.
And over here is the video that's gonna be inside the room that brother showed you, the one with light strips.
The video that will be playing upstairs is about many different things, but one of them is that these people are dancing to generate energy to power the planet. Brother's going to dance with the people.
Whatever.
Secret door.
Now I feel like I'm Mr. Herman because that's the top of the wall all the way there. So yeah, I think the scale was right because I'm about as tall as Herman would be if he was a real life human. This is the light tape. And this looks pretty much identical to the model earlier. Actually, it's exactly the same, except the wires are still not here yet because they haven't completed the installation. And on the other side of this wall is where the exhibit will be, so we're gonna go there next. We're gonna take a sneak peek at this exhibit. It's a work in progress. It's based on the model that we saw downstairs earlier, and it's called Factory of the Sun. Let's go inside. this is the room, and right now they only lit up one light tape because they only plugged it in with that piece of tape. But later on, when it's completed, all of these light tapes that you see forming grids around the room will light up. Also, when they were planning the room, they had to make sure that all the squares of light tapes were complete squares and that they perfectly fit from the left side of a wall to the right side, and same with top to bottom. So there couldn't be 3/4 of a square or half a square. It had to be a full square for all the squares in this room.
Basically, what he's saying is that they did very complicated math.
And so yeah, each side of a square is 45 inches, and they had to be very precise with that. So they used a laser that could shoot down one side, and the laser kind of wrapped around the entire room, so it went up and then all the way around and back down to form a loop. And then with the laser, they knew where to place the tape so that the grids are perfect. The last thing I want to say is that this exhibit has been installed a few times in the past, like in Los Angeles and Chicago, but everywhere that it was installed, they had a room with different dimensions, which means that instead of 45 inches for each side of a square, it was probably different in the other locations. So they do have to kind of improvise, but the general idea of this room is still the same because they have the light strips forming grids, and there will be a huge screen over there. Just imagine that word that Herman do. Oh, and one final thing, if they see these lights up there, they're gonna be removed for the final exhibit. So they just take off the lights and paint over it so it's black.
And the only light sources are going to be the projector and the light strips.
So yeah, right now it's a work in progress. They haven't completed it, but we hope to have the opportunity to come back up to San Jose to see this exhibit when it's finally completed. And here is some concept art from Factory of the Sun. The last time we were here, this exhibit, Break and Bleed, was curtained off because it was still in construction, but now it's completely done, so we're gonna check it out. The reason why this exhibit is called Break and Bleed is because it's a process that the artists use when they're working with shapes and lines, which is why there's no landscapes in this exhibit. It's all shapes, lines, and colors. When I walked into the gallery, this was the first that caught my attention because it looks so cool. There's so many lines, and it's kind of like a rainbowy pattern, but it's not a rainbow, and it looks a little hypnotizing. Brother, does it make you dizzy?
Well, you see, it's the most, you get the most attention from this painting only because it's the first painting that you see when you walk through, except it's straight away from the entrance.
That's too low. This art piece has a dull red on the right and a dull blue on the left, but it also kind of makes you a little dizzy, and I don't know if you can see it from the camera, but it's possible to like have a hard time distinguishing the colors in the middle. I don't know, it just, the colors look so similar, yet they're so different. And lastly, in this exhibit, there's colorful stripes on this one, a bunch of black and gray on this, and then pretty much the opposite of this black and gray is the most colorful piece along this wall. And that is the behind the scenes tour of San Jose Museum of Art. Brother, what was your favorite part of the museum that we saw?
Maybe the giant elevator.
The giant elevator? Really? My favorite part was probably seeing the tiny model of the huge room with the light strips and the monitors. And then after we saw the model, then we got to visit the actual room. The exhibit will open on August 6th and we'll be here for around a year. So we hope to come back soon to see the completed installation. Please like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more videos. Bye!